good afternoon, good day, wherever you might be. I want to welcome you. My name is Dutch. This is the Flying Dutchman Show, and I have something special. When I interview pilots, crew members, but today's a double bammy because it's not only a Harrier pilot, but I've got two former Harrier pilots that flew, I believe, the AV-8B version, gentlemen.
Right.
And again, thank you for being on the show. And first, we want to start out. Fig,
Hold
where
on,
were you
I got
raised?
a question to start here.
What?
Where are these gentlemen? You talking to Fig and me? And
Yeah,
where are the
I
gentlemen?
used the
You
word
lose that
loosely.
pretty loosely, Dutch. That's it's almost. I'm looking around, thinking who's he talking?
No swearing, Fig. There's gentlemen in the area.
No, you know what? I stand corrected. I stand corrected. So, Fig, where were you raised?
I was raised in a little town just outside Kansas City called Lee Summit, Missouri, which is not little anymore, and I don't live there now because of that. But that's where I grew up. One high school, 3 or 4 grade schools, and that's where my mother grew up, and that's where I grew up.
Pete, repeat. Where are you from, sir?
Well, I was born in the same town as Wayne Campbell from Wayne's World. Kids, ask your parents. Which is Aurora, Illinois.
What?
Oh, that's correct. I was
only
unaware.
there for a short time. We moved to Vermont when I was 7 years old. We moved to New Orleans when I was 12. North Lake in the Covington, Louisiana area when I was 14. Then I went to high school in Mississippi and spent summers in Texas and Florida with siblings. And then went to LSU and then active duty in the Marines. So believe it or not, not even a military family, but lived all over the eastern third of the country for my first 18 years.
Well, this is what I'm curious about. Is you two served in VMFA 223?
Close. No F then. There's going to be an F on it again soon as they transition to the 35, but we were VMA 223.
VMA, the Bulldogs.
Yeah. The Bulldog, the Great American Bulldogs.
Yes, in fact, that is probably, if I'm correct, the last remaining Harrier unit.
It is.
Before transitioning to the F-35. Well, you guys served to... Oh, sweet. All right.
That's the squadron patch logo.
Smoke them if you got them.
Yeah.
He's holding up the lighter. He only bought one. He didn't buy enough for everyone.
There was only one. It was it. Only one. If there was 5, I would have bought all 5. I promise.
Would you have given 4 of them out?
I'm sorry.
Would you have given 4 out?
Yes, I would have. And the first one I would have sent would have gone right to that guy right there.
Right on.
Because who knew it was gonna be a recurring theme. You know what? When I see you next time, I'm giving this to you because I don't want to hear it anymore.
I won't
that
take
bad,
it. I just like busting your balls, man, but I won't take it.
You son
balls are busted. He's going to give it to you. Good show. So you guys served together. Did you go to flight school together?
No.
He was just a little ahead of me.
Okay.
About a year or so.
I think something like that. So I got my wings the January of 90. And out of Beeville, Texas. And
whoa, wait, slow down. You said January of 90?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, well, I got my wings in March.
Okay. Yeah. So a couple months ahead of you then.
Yeah.
And then we wound up meeting. We probably met at 203 then. We finished and got into the rag out of the rag just a little bit ahead of you. So I went to Beeville, but Fig is like I like to tell people, a Meridian.
Yeah, I was a Meridian. Went through Meridian.
Yeah. So you were the VT in Meridian?
Yeah. Went to there was 2 VTs back then because we flew the T2 Buckeye for intermediate jets, and then
the Charlie.
So VT-19 and VT-7 in Meridian. I was a Meridian.
Was VT-19 the Frog?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Cockpit? I think that's probably the better looking of all the logos. Repeat, what was your squadron patch motif?
So it was the VT-24 Bobcats in a forest. I don't remember what VT-26 is. I'm having to look that up now. So I was VT-26 for T2s, and then VT-24. I'm looking up the patch now. Oh, it was just two jets, one joining on the other in a field of blue. Two red jets in a field of blue. No wonder
That's
it
a
was
gay.
not a
That's a
particularly
gay
memorable
patch.
patch.
That was dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb. That's not a memorable patch.
It's not stupid.
Now we're going to go Tarantino. We're going to go backwards a little bit with repeat is you selected to be in aviation
Right.
at some point, knowing there's a risk that the Marines tell you you're going to go to Pensacola for flight school. If you wash out, is it true that they could put you somewhere else where they want, not what you want?
Absolutely. And then they were kind enough to wash my ass out before I ever even finished the basic school. So you get commissioned, you go to 6 months of the basic school, then you report to Pensacola for flight school. The problem was when I graduated in 84, there were, I think the number that comes to mind was 400 Marine lieutenants with flight contracts and room for about 75 pilots per year at that point in time. So miraculously, all these guys showed up at the basic school, physically fit, hard charging Marines, ready to go. And all of a sudden they had heart murmurs and they couldn't see and they couldn't hear and all that stuff. So a bunch of us got sidelined. I won't go through the story is really long and convoluted, but yeah, I was given a ground supply billet once they took my flight contract. I did relinquish my flight contract because I was targeted by the doc. He's like, "You're not going to pass." I went, "Uh-oh." So you had three opportunities, and I went before my second one or before my third one, I dropped. And then they came back and gave me a ground supply. So I had to get congressmen involved and go, not only did they not send me to flight school, now they didn't even honor their promise to send me to one of my first three choices to another job in the Marine Corps. They gave me ground supply. And they came back and said, oh yeah, we're sorry. So they got me another job in the Air Wing, and it turned out to be pretty good. I was a Hawk missile air defense officer and did Hawk and Stinger missiles for almost 3 years before I got to flight school. And that actually turned out to be, in retrospect, a wonderful experience. It sucked at the time because I wasn't in a cockpit.
Yeah.
But it was a chance to lead Marines in a ground billet and be a platoon commander, a battery executive officer, a battalion adjutant, and all those things that the ground side of the house that pilots never get to see, at least not early on, and not until they're majors and department heads in squadrons.
Fig, how about you? How you got accepted to flight school, and was it easy going? Was there a fear of washout?
Well, a little different story, Dutch. I was already flying. I had my pilot's license, and I was working on my instrument rating and commercial pilot license. I just had transferred to a college that offered a 4-year aviation degree. And so I was a junior when I transferred there with a private pilot's license. I decided that come hell or high water, I was going to be a professional pilot. And that's when I stumbled into the Marine PLC commissioning program. And I was officer recruiter's dream. I stopped in the student union one day. He had his shit all set up on a table, beautiful red Marine Corps colors and posters of fighters in the background. And I stopped and looked at it, and he goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I want to fly that." And then the rest is history, so to speak. So when I went to flight school, I had commercial pilot's license, about 400 hours, instrument rating. And so primary flight training was breeze. I had a blast. I didn't divulge to anybody that I had all that experience. So to them, I was just a savant.
So did you bring bad habits with you?
No, because I had experience, but not enough to have bad habits yet. So I learned the way the Navy wanted me to do things. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But it's still an airplane. Right. And, they're still instruments. And so because I got so far ahead of my peers in primary, when it came time to select airplanes, I was the top guy. As long as there was one jet slot, I was going to get that, which I did. And then I went to Meridian. T2s was a straight wing jet, flew pretty much like all the other planes I'd ever flown. We all became equal when we all started flying the A4, because that was a swept wing airplane. It had a lot of different characteristics, and everybody caught up to me about that point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and swept wing aerodynamics was a whole different animal. You know, didn't even feel the same when you were trying to land it.
Did you ever get to fire the gun?
Yeah. The TA4 had a 20 millimeter cannon, right? Just a cannon. Well, they were
not
so
very
old,
reliable, I hear.
Not very reliable. You know, every once in a while you get 2 or 3 rounds off, and most of the time it was a single shot, boom, and then it would jam. But on occasion, I got, you know, half a dozen rounds off, maybe 10 rounds off before it jammed. You know, because you didn't hold it down. You'd fire 2 or 3 round burst, and then you'd come back around and do it again. And well, you know, if you got 3 passes, you were pretty lucky.
Right? Were they a little lenient on the gunnery range when it came to the cannon fire? And like, okay, you're good. It's jammed. It's a pass.
Yeah.
With some.
Yeah, I don't even remember them scoring it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember scoring the cannon hits.
The bombing, all the bombs were scored, but the cannon, I think, is so unreliable that
I don't think they could fire. Yeah.
Oh yeah, got to fire it.
What
the number one rule was not to watch your hits.
What?
Yeah, that's the problem. When you're shooting forward firing ordnance, it's nature to watch the magic happen out in front of you. The problem is you will hit what you're shooting at. If
through with Zuni rockets, because those things come off and leave a nice smoke trail, and you can watch them going down range.
Yeah, you can watch them like, oh, that's cool. It's like a giant bottle rocket you just filed off between your legs, and then you're like, then you see the ground rushing up at you.
Yeah. What's this sheep doing up here with me? So you've gone through the T2, which let's talk about that real quick, because that was the aircraft that you guys did carrier quals on, right?
The first
right. Well, we did both that and the A4, but that was the first one you ever got to go to the boat.
What was your first impression? I don't know if people ask that a lot, but I just imagine that whoever's talking to you, the lead is telling you guys don't F up, take off, rendezvous, circle the ship, and I'll call you down, or however it worked. But I couldn't imagine. And people say the postage stamp and all, but I got to land on that. I mean, you must have been fatigued.
I'll go first on that.
Yes, please.
I remember looking down. I was probably -2 or -3, somewhere in there. You'd have an instructor take the flight of 4 out to the boat. And I remember passing overhead the boat at 3,000 or 4,000 feet, looking down at it. And I went, well, yeah, it's small, but it's also several thousand feet down. So I wasn't too intimidated by that. I do remember, though, then coming around, you'd have to do 2 touch and goes, and then you're cleared to drop your hook. And so I did that, did 2 passes, clear to drop my hook, come around, do my first pass, touchdown, and of course you immediately go full power. So in the event you don't catch a wire, you go around and your engines are already spooled up and running for you. So I touch down, I'm looking to my right, watching everybody go by, going, I'm going to stop anytime. It's not stopping. And the next thing I know, I go off the angle deck, get a little bit of a settle, but if my engines are running, I go around. And turned out later, I actually got a good grade. I got a fair pass from the LSO on that, but I had what they call a hook slap bolter. The hook hit and bounced over the 3-wire, which is your target, and also thusly over the 4-wire. So I did catch a trap on my next pass. So that was my 4th pass at the boat.
What wire did you catch?
Number 3. I was doing really well. Had a good pass. But now I was out of gas. So that last pass was either going to be make it or break it. It was that or bingo, meaning go back to shore and get more fuel. So I made it, and they bring me over to the island, and they chain me down, and it's the only time you can relax, right? No, you never relax on the deck of a carrier. Just don't do it. But I kind of learned that the hard way, not as hard as some did shortly thereafter. But I was sitting there minding my own business, like, okay, this is cool. And the next thing I know, my whole jet shakes. Boom! Something ran into it. I'm like, I look out, and they taxied another airplane right into my left wing. I'm like,
Oh no.
I don't have anything but my wallet and my flight suit, and I'm going to be spending the night on the boat now.
What boat were you on?
The Lexington.
Oh, you were back in the Lexington time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the next thing I know, this big roll, we call it speed tape. Looks like duct tape, metal tape. They came out, they taped up my left wing, my wing lens, and it was just a tip tank that got hit. They taped it up, it launched me off. I did 3 more traps, got shot off, and home I went. But
if that was the Air Force, that airplane would have been impounded for 6 months. You would have had to go
absolutely.
piss in a cup, get blood drawn, even though you were chained down, had nothing to do with it.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And then briefly, I'll end the story with shortly after that was my first cat shot. And off I go. They chain me up. I follow all the signals, ready to go, shoot me off. And it was so quick, loud, and violent that even though I had my hand on the throttles and the towel rack, which helps you hold your hand on the throttles and keep them forward on takeoff, it was so quiet after I left the bow that I thought, oh crap, I may have lost my engines. And I looked down and they're both running fine. And then I'm starting to hear things again. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I was also screaming like a 6-year-old girl who fell off a swing on a playground. I was howling at the highest pitched squeal I've ever howled. It was so much fun. So my first impression was, on a clear, calm day, the boat is the most fun you can have with your pants on.
How rewarding.
Yeah.
Fig, you're in the pattern.
Well, I have a very similar experience, although I was Dash 4 of the 4-ship, and the wing commander, the Commodore, was our lead that take us out to the boat. We're all solo. And I had a Spanish exchange student who was number 3. So I'm flying on his wing, and he's nervous as a cat trying to cover shit on a hot roof. And so he's everywhere and bouncing all over the place. And I just had to get away from him. So I had some space to breathe. I was nervous too. Well, we're in a left-hand turn, and the Commodore, who had a very soothing voice, it was like you were flying with your favorite uncle. He says, well, boys, look down to the left. There's your ship. And it was the Kennedy. I first landed on the Kennedy, and it was a pretty big ship compared to Lexington, which I landed on the second time. But I looked down, I took a quick, stole a glance, and I thought, well, that's not the right boat I'm looking at. That's way too small. So I got further away so I could look longer, and I looked down, and there was no other boats around. I'm like, holy shit, that's the carrier? And I thought it was really tiny and small. In my mind, it was going to be big. Like it was going to look big.
Because you knew you were going to the Kennedy.
Yeah. So like Repeat, first 2 passes were touch and goes. And if the LSO liked what he saw, he'd tell you to put your hook down on the 3rd pass. And so on the 3rd pass, he says, all right, Fig, put your hook down. And I rolled into the groove with the hook down on the 3rd pass. And when I landed, we had done it so many times in practice that it was muscle memory, because my IQ dropped 50% as soon as I saw that boat. I mean, I couldn't tell you, what my address was, but muscle memory was there. So when I hit the ship on that 3rd pass, I caught a wire, but everything happened so fast, and then it was very self-critiquing there in the end, because I had forgotten one item that was very important, which was to lock my harness. So when everything came to an abrupt halt, which it does so fast, my body kept going, and I hit the gun sight with my head, i.e. helmet, and all the sweat that was on my face, which I was sweating profusely, went up on the visor, which immediately obscured my view. So now I'm sitting there at a dead stop with the throttles at 100%. I can't see shit. My heart's racing. And then the voice of God came over the radio, and it wasn't God. It was actually the air boss. And he said, "That's all right, son. You can pull the throttles back now. We got you." And that kind of snapped me out of it. And I realized, oh, I'm not moving. And I'm here on the ship. And I look down to my right, and there's a dude on the on the deck. He's waving at me. He's telling me to put my hook up and start tacking because there's a dude coming behind me, right? So that's my first experience. And it was like this: water, 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 steel, and everything came to an abrupt halt.
That's intense. I couldn't imagine.
It was awesome.
And you guys have, they call it a dream sheet. You list the top 3 airframes you would like to go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were they?
Go ahead, repeat. You're senior.
Yeah. So
in more than one way.
Yeah. So I actually went in with the hope of flying A4s, but A4s were no longer available by then. So my choices available to me were Hornets, Harriers, and EA6s, which is the electronic countermeasure 4-seat A6. And that didn't appeal to me. The EA6 didn't appeal to me. When I left Cherry Point, which is where I was in Hawk Missiles, I wanted to come back and fly Harriers. But when I started doing tailhook, I went, oh, I want to keep doing that too. So I did pick Hornets, Harriers, EA6s in that order. And they were sending everybody Harriers in those days. But because I always thought, you know what, I can always go from Hornets to Harriers. It'll be much more difficult to go from Harriers to Hornets. Although I don't know of any guys that did try to transition to the AV-8 after the F-18. But I got AV-8s and I was still thrilled with it. I mean, getting to fly single engine, single seat attack jets in the Marine Corps. What a blessing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of power in the Harrier, isn't there?
Better than the 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio on most days, right?
Yeah. It can hover.
No afterburner.
No.
So, in fact, it's the fastest. I would assume still true even with the 22 and the 35. Fastest airplane to about 400 knots on the planet. Just because there's so much power in that high bypass fan, that thing rocking. As soon as you put it forward, the throttles up, you've got about 3.5, 4 Gs straight back.
Wow, yeah, it's almost like a cat shot.
Yeah,
wow.
Set you right back in this.
These are Rolls-Royce engines on those things.
Yeah, we flew the 406As. They moved to the 408A when they went to the night attack and the radar variant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Pegasus 406 and 408.
Is that because there was added weight with those electronics?
Yeah, it had about, I would figure, about 1,500 pounds more thrust for the night attack.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
It
was 21,700 pounds of thrust, I think, 21,500 our model, and I think the other one put out just a little over 23,000.
Wow.
Or close to 24,000.
For an empty weight, 13.5, 14,000 pound airplane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a rocket ship.
Yeah, that would be. Fig, what was your wish list?
Well, I was enamored with the F4, and at the time, the only F4 squadron left in the Marine Corps was VMFP3. It was a reconnaissance squadron.
Is that El Toro?
In El Toro. And I when I filled out my dream sheet, I put down the F4. I put an F4 Phantom, and then the Harrier, and then the F-18, and then the senior Marine at the time pulled me into his office because I was the number one guy. I was going to get whatever I wanted, and he said, "Hey, you might want to just get your mind right because we're not putting anybody else in the F4." He called and said, "Yeah, the last RAG student is just left the building, so there's no more because they were." That was in '89, so I think they decommissioned that squadron. It was like 91 or 92.
Yeah, it was right after Desert Storm. And
so the Harrier was my next choice, and I came up with that because I enjoyed everything that I'd done to that point, including going to the boat in a tailhook aircraft. But I thought, if I want to do something different, it's going to be the Harrier because it's a completely different kind of flying. So that's what drew me to it.
Yeah.
That and like Repeat, I really like the A4, but that wasn't an option either. So the Harrier was what I wanted.
Yeah.
Lucky and blessed enough to get it.
Well, I know like the last was the OA4Ms for the Marines, and those went pretty quick. They weren't around very long. And then I
actually got to fly that.
Did you?
When I was at Cherry Point. Yeah.
we were waiting to start the RAG. They let us fly those.
Oh, that'd
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah, I did.
How,
I got about 350 hours in that plane.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, what are you bitching about then?
I'm not. I'm not bitching. I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. Just,
Right?
I swear, I'm not lying.
Hey, how come I'm not hearing the A6 Intruder? Was the Marines already dispensing with those at that time?
That wasn't an option for me either. Then,
Yeah,
well, you know what?
they
I
did.
take that back because I
No,
do remember a guy in my class going A6s.
yeah,
I just,
we had some. They were putting a few guys in there.
yeah,
It didn't appeal to me because it was such a an old and probably not going to be around airplane.
Yeah,
It
that's
really
true.
didn't appeal to me at all because it was kind of ugly, really.
My model
still
didn't hear
is.
that.
Still
Um,
is.
It was like a chicken leg. It was like a chicken wing or a big chicken.
it
It was
does.
like
Yeah,
a
you take the
drumstick with
wings off, it's
wings.
a drumstick.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
That, you know what? I might build a drumstick model one day. Make it give it markings of a Marine intruder, and
That
I'm
would
gonna
be
mail
good.
it to you.
Right?
Um, so in flight training, you guys obviously made it. Your dream sheet. You're going to be going to Harriers to 203. Is that
Yep.
the transition or the training unit?
It
Yes.
was, yeah.
Um,
The RAG, the
but
replacement air group.
but
To
the
be politically
unfortunate,
incorrect.
yeah, the unfortunate side is that some guys washed out and gals washed out
Yep.
that were no longer with you that had already gone and flown the T2. I could imagine the letdown that they felt.
Either. I had a guy,
Oh.
he was went to college with me, had a lot of flight time. We went to the basic school together. Went to flight school together. He went to Beeville or Kingsville, and I went to Meridian, but he never got to go to the boat in T2s. He was washed out before he got to the boat because he couldn't land in the box on the carrier painted box on the runway,
Mhm.
and they washed him out.
I had a buddy the same way. Learning the light that was probably the most non-civilian flying thing we did. Right, it was angle of attack landings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So, which is how you get aboard the boat. You fly your angle of attack, not your airspeed, and then
No flare all the way to touchdown. No
Yeah.
flare.
No flare.
You hit hard. It's like you didn't do that in a Cessna 172. You'd break the
break
gear.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a buddy same way. He never made it to the boat, and he actually wound up Secret Service presidential detail. But yeah, he was absolutely crushed when he went. Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to be able to keep flying. Our initial flights were done in the T-Bird, and then you would do some instrument flights under the hood in the T-Bird. But other than that, it was they put us in a single seat for the tactical training.
I've never heard it referred to as the T-Bird. When I hear T-Bird, I'm thinking the old T-33s, but
Right.
they called it the Harrier, the T-Bird, the two-seater.
Yes.
Yeah, trainer. The trainer.
Trainer. Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. How many hops did you do in that before you advanced to single seat?
Maybe 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
8 or 10. Yeah, it wasn't a lot.
The last one being your like your safer solo checkout, and then
Uh-huh.
you never flew the T-Bird again until your NATOPS check at the very end. Yes, we did drop bombs with it because
That's right.
we had to drop we had to drop a bomb on our NATOPS check.
On your NATOPS check, you had to be target plus or minus 30 seconds.
Which reminds me of a terrifying and terrific story. Can
Do
I tell it?
Do
Sure.
tell.
So made it all the way through the RAG, and now it's my final flight day, the NATOPS check ride, and I flew it with Ragu, who at the time was the OPSO of, and so the flight consisted of you had to fly a DAS, deep airstrike, so a low level to a low level pop, a low angle pop to to target. You drop one bomb on the target, and and it was a TOT, time on target.
Mhm.
So you're flying this whole thing, this whole low level to get you to the target on time and put a bomb on the bullseye. And I did. I mean, the low level, I put the bomb right on the bullseye, came off target. The range guy said, that's a shack. And I'm thinking, I'm King Kong. So then we go back to the pattern, and you do all the circus landings and circus takeoffs in the Harrier. And there's a shit ton of them because and I'll let Repeat describe that because he was an instructor. And so when the whole thing was over, I'm pretty damn proud of myself. I'm thinking, I don't see how this could have gone any better. I can't wait for the debrief. Ragu's going to tell me I'm the best damn Harrier pilot he's ever seen. And when we pulled into the chocks and opened the canopy, he says, "See me in my office," and stepped off. And I'm like, "Well, that didn't sound good. What? I wonder what he's mad about." And when I walked into the maintenance control to sign the paperwork saying the jet was good, it was like a funeral parlor. Everybody was quiet. And I'm like, "Oh, this probably isn't good," because Ragu had gone through there. I'm sure he was. And so when I get up to the second deck where his office was, before I could even see him, I could hear him. "Get your ass in my office right now." So I walked in there and closed the door, and he immediately is standing up behind his desk, veins popping out. And so I went into full Marine mode, and I just stood there at attention with my eyes locked on the wall behind him. And he goes on for 30 to 45 seconds, screaming explicatives at me and telling me how he's could take my wings. I'm never going to fly again, and yada, yada, yada. And the whole time my mind is racing. What happened? I honestly didn't know what happened. And apparently the expression on my face said it all. And he stopped talking and he said, "You don't have a fucking clue what I'm talking about, do you?" And I'm like, "No, sir, I do not." And he said, "How fast or what is the speed limit below 10,000 feet? FAA speed limit below 10,000 feet." And I said, "Well, that's 250. Well, see, we didn't go anywhere below 300 knots. We had a waiver. So, I knew the answer was 250. And he goes, "How fast were you going from the restricted area back to Cherry Point?" And I said, without even blinking, I said, 400 knots. And he popped a gasket and started screaming again. And he could tell by the look on my face that I didn't understand it. He goes, "Well, so the bottom of the moral of the story is, I had been in a single seat since we got our Safer Solo ride until that check ride. And you never go out by yourself when you're in training. You're always on a flight instructor's wing. And I'm telling you, I had never been from the restricted area back to the base at less than 400 knots. That's just what we did every single flight.
And I was shot for about six and a quarter.
I know. And honestly, I just, you would normally just put the power up in the top end there and just let it go. And then you'd come into the break at whatever speed you got, which was in excess of 400 knots. So I did what I had done every single flight. And when I explained that to him, he said, "Get out of my office." Not, "Hey, congratulations, you're done." He said, "Get out of my office." So I walked out, still not knowing what my fate was. And about 10 seconds after I was out of his office, over the intercom, I heard in his voice, "I want all instructors in the ready room now."
Repeat, were you there?
Oh, I don't think I was. I would have just been over at 223 next door already by then. But what's funny is how the
background story on that. What is going on?
Well, so he bitched all the instructors out for not adhering to the 300 knot limit below 10,000 feet from the restricted, because apparently, everybody was doing it. It wasn't just me. I just happened to be the one that got the wrath of Ragu on that day when he actually saw it happen. And yes, I did pass after the ass chewing. It was all over. It was all good. But that's how my NATOS check ride went.
Nice.
Well, Repeat, I want to know what it's like being an instructor.
I learned pretty quickly to always expect the unexpected. That's the number one thing. Even though, these guys are all professional aviators at this point. So for the most part, they're not going to make a dumb aviation mistake. Although when you think about it, when you get your wings and you show up at the RAG, you're well trained. And as Fig said earlier, there's a lot of muscle memory going on there. So normally things are good, but every now and then you'll get a weird, event happen. And so you have to guard the controls and don't let them, especially when you're teaching V-stall. Early on, teaching the V-stall, hovering, what we call RVLs, rolling vertical landings, touching down at 30, 35 knots. You're more on the jet engine than you are on the wing. And bad things can happen from which can't be recovered. That can happen pretty quickly. And so you're guarding the controls there, and you're making sure that you've got your water flow and you've got your performance numbers that you need, because you need 1.2 3-to-1 thrust to weight ratio in order to conduct a vertical landing. So you would think, oh, 1-to-1. The problem is with 1-to-1, anything less than 1.3-to-1, you don't have the performance margin to arrest a sink rate that will hurt you.
Okay.
So yeah, so 1-to-1 seems logical, but it's you need 30% more thrust than the weight in order to arrest a sink rate that you could develop. And then there's some other weird aerodynamics going on in there too. We have a thing called the death equation, and quickly put, it's the product of your airspeed, your angle of attack, and your yaw. And if any one of those, if at any time that product of that multiplication equation equals 1, then the airplane will do an adverse yaw departure flip and kill you. And because at 50 feet to 100 feet, which is where you are as you're coming into the hover, bad things are going on. However, if you multiply anything by 0, the result is always 0. And so that's why you'll notice on the nose of a Harrier, you see what looks like a little weather vane.
Yes.
And that's so you can keep your yaw at 0. So your airspeed, your angle of attack can be anything. As long as your yaw is 0, you're not going to get that adverse yaw departure. If your airspeed is 0 and effectively below 30 knots, your airspeed was 0, then you didn't worry about your weather vane, your yaw, because your airspeed was low enough that that product could not equal 1 and therefore kill you. So that was, teaching that and getting guys to understand that early on was a bit of a challenge. But I also enjoyed saying, okay, here's where you can go. Look, this is 0. Here's some of the cool shit you can do. You can be really aggressive in this way as long as that's 0. You can be really aggressive in that way as long as this is 0. So in that sense, teaching was a lot of fun. But that didn't come with it. And if you go back and listen to our show with Disco actually was one of the ones that gave me a check ride to become an instructor. And he talks about screwing me.
Oh, really?
And among other things. And I still remember taking my first check ride for teaching FAMs with, I think he was the OPSO. He might have been the maintenance officer, a guy named Kevin Herman, call sign Pee Wee. And Pee Wee has me doing a conventional landing. And we're in the T-Bird. And we're at about 20 feet. He's like, all right, take it around. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Hi, man. Use it. Because look at your flap setting. And I'm like, oh, I was in stall flaps, which when you do a conventional landing, which you're touching down just like a regular jet, and you're scooting down the runway at 140, 150 knots, absolutely terrifying.
You're going faster than that.
Because of the outrigger gear. Yeah.
But
and
yeah, that's a lot of stress on that outrigger gear.
Yeah, but you're on that center gear and the outrigger, and if you're over service center line, then you're going to have, you're going to be tilting back and forth as your wingtips bounce and touch. But after touchdown on a conventional landing, you take your nozzle lever and you go to the braking stop, which is 15 degrees forward, and put your power back up in order to help slow the jet down, because the brakes were only on the main wheel on that thing and they sucked. But you had to be in auto flaps because they were already at 25 degrees and they wouldn't program. Once you start pulling your nozzles in with stall flaps, your flaps will program all the way down with the nozzles to 50 degrees, and it will float you up, put you nose down. You're going to be staring at runway at 150 knots.
Oh my gosh.
And,
it's not good.
Seriously consider ejecting. And somehow I'd left my flaps in stall from the previous landing, and I went, well, I learned from that. I never did that again, But,
did you ever have a student try and kill you?
Yes. Yeah. I've that very scenario. And and the other one that comes immediately to mind, we were in the goo on an instrument ride in the T-Bird, and he was told to level off at 10,000 feet. And we're going through 8,000 feet with about 6,000 to 7,000 feet per minute rate of climb.
Oh my.
And and at about 9,000 feet, he realizes it's going to be close. So he rolls the jet inverted, pulls level at 10,000 feet, and rolls the wings back level. And I'm just going, oh, that was impressive. Actually, that was pretty cool. And about 5 seconds later, the jet's in about a 30-degree angle of bank, and the bank is continuing. And he goes, sir, can you take the jet? Yeah, I got it. I got the jet, level the wings. He goes, I feel like I'm still inverted.
Oh,
his
Gave
inner ear
himself a
was all
case of
screwed up.
vertigo. So,
wow.
Self-induced. A little
Yeah.
self-induced vertigo.
At least he sounded off and didn't
Oh,
try
yeah.
and push through it.
Yeah. He
So, so did you guys have call signs at this point with 203?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Repeat got his call sign at 203.
Yeah, I got
Did
mine
you not?
changed at 203. So yeah, I was Hawk
Changed.
all the way through flight school
You what?
because I had been a Hawk missile guy. And then when I
Oh.
got to the RAG, the squadron CO was Hawk. And
Oh.
therefore I became Repeat. Convenient as my name was Pete.
Yeah, you didn't dick up anywhere where they're going to name you after that.
No, and thank God the squadron doc didn't have a whole lot of influence because I do have 4 names and my initials are PAMH, and so he tried to call me Pam, but
oh, that would have been good. And Fig, I know the answer.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell our audience how you got the call sign Fig?
Well, my last name's Newton, and I was in the advanced jet training squadron in Meridian, and I walked in one morning, and I had a different call sign back then. I don't even remember what it was, but it was pretty cool because call signs can be cool. Yeah, it did. And as I was walking in early morning to brief, set up the board for the brief. I didn't know it yet, but the instructor I was flying with, this Navy guy, screaming from across the room, "Hey, Fig! Hey, Fig!" And I don't know he's talking to me, so I'm not paying attention. And then eventually I realized he's screaming at me, and then it stuck.
And there were other people that could hear this.
Oh yeah, the room was full of people, and so that was it. I was Fig Newton, and then never got a call sign change, and I probably deserved it on multiple occasions to have a more derogatory call sign, but that's
you gave
the way
them
it worked
reasons,
out.
but they didn't take it, huh?
Yeah. Yes.
What is NATOPS?
NATOPS stands for Naval Operations. See, NATOPS. Oh, Naval Aviation Training Operations Procedures.
Okay, and that's where you were getting screamed at because you busted what your Ragu thought was the NATOPS for that. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, every airframe in naval aviation has a NATOPS manual. It's the flight manual for that aircraft. It was an NATOPS manual. And so that, and we in naval aviation operate under OPNAV 3710, which is another publication that basically spells out how we operate the aircraft, what the rules are, what the prohibited things are, which there aren't very many. And that's the big difference between the way naval aviation operates in the Air Force.
What is VIFing, and did you guys practice that at 203?
We did in our ACM phase.
Yeah.
And let our audience know, what is VIFing?
Vector and forward flight.
And what is the advantage of that?
It's your one trick, and I do mean one in real flight.
Why is that, Repeat? Why is there only one? Why?
Because we don't have a reheat, no afterburner, which means getting your energy back, you need gravity and a lot of dense air. And up at 20,000 feet or so, where we're trying to do our ACM, air combat maneuvering, the air is not dense enough to get your speed back. No energy. It's energy management. So you're crapping a bunch of energy in a different direction to use.
It was either a pure defensive maneuver, or you were spending all your energy to get the perfect shot, which had to work because you were out of ideas at that point.
Were any lessons from the British using the Sea Harrier imparted on the Harrier community in the United States? Any lessons?
I would say almost certainly, but we never learned them as, hey, the Brits taught us this or that.
Okay.
I will say this, what little I know of the Falklands, for instance, was they took an airplane that was basically a close-in air support attack jet and made it a fleet long-range air interceptor, and did it well. I mean, amazing,
good success, great success.
Yeah. I think when they paired it with the AIM-9L, I think it was the Limas, is their Blue Fox radar. It became a perfect one. But okay, you guys now report And you're only a couple months behind each other reporting to the Bulldogs, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
What is reporting to a new unit like as a new guy? Because obviously you're going to be looked up and down, and you're not. I don't know if it's like they're not just going to welcome you with open arms, and now suddenly you're one of the guys. There's got to be some kind of vetting. There's got to be something. Do they get you drunk with them, and that's good enough, or they want to see how you fly?
There's some of that welcome because you know some of the guys that are in that unit, usually speaking. But yeah, mine did not go well.
Why didn't it go well? Repeat.
So God bless you, Greyhound. So Hound, aka Greyhound, he was gray at 23 years old, and hence that's how he got his call sign.
Character. Yeah. A character.
Probably the greatest storyteller in the history of marine aviation. Guy, yeah. Here's the deal. If you walked into the ready room at 8:30, 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning and Hound was in there with a cup of coffee, you could count on not getting any work done until after noon chow
because he would yap away.
The stories were endless.
Stories.
Fantastic. It was like a core workout every time Hound was in there. And always new stories. Always new stories. The guy was amazing. And
it was truly rare to hear a repeat story ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can concur with that.
Interesting.
And he means repeating the story as opposed to one of my stories. But he would crack himself up. He had this great laugh too. And so anyway, I knew Hound, and I forget why or how I knew him before I went over next. And literally the squadrons were 100, not even 100 yards apart, maybe 40 yards apart. So it was next door. And I finished up on a Friday afternoon, walk over in my flight suit with my OQR, officer qualification record, and my NATOPS jacket, which is all my flight qualifications. And I'm just going to drop them off in operations with the NATOPS and the S1 or admin shop with my OQR and scoot out the door. And as I'm walking in, Hound was the XO. I run into him in the passageway, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Tripp's in his office. Poke your nose in and say hi." And I'm like, "I'm not checking in yet. I'm going to check in Monday." And in the Marine Corps, you don't check in or out of the unit in a flight suit. You don't do it in camouflage utilities. You don't do it in Charlies, even unless explicitly told to do so. You do it in your dress uniform, your alpha.
Really?
Like wear a business suit to a business.
Yeah,
I was unaware.
It's tradition, and that's Marine Corps very traditionally.
Absolutely. And I like that about the Marine Corps. I really do. It's, don't let your standards fall for any reason ever. And it's not a big deal to put your alphas on and be squared away. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm not checking in." He goes, "Oh, you're not checking." The Hound's like, "You're not checking in. Just, poke your nose in, tell them you're here, say hi." Okay. All right. So I dropped my records off at the appropriate places. And look, Tripp's sitting behind his desk. He's reading a message or something like that. He doesn't look overly busy, or I kind of poke my head in and tap on the side of the hatch, and he looks up. He goes, "What can I do for you?" "How you doing, sir? My name's Captain Harmon. I'm coming from 203. I'm going to check in Monday and just dropping off my gear here." And the Hound said, "Poke my nose in and say hello to you." So I said, "Oh, come on in, sit down." So we're talking for a little bit, and one of the greatest lines ever. He goes, "Well, do you know what you want to do?" I said, "I think I'd like to be in safety." He goes, "Well, yeah." He goes, "I don't have any room in safety right now. I've got people here designated to go to safety school, so that'll be a while." He goes, "I'd rather have a sister in a brothel than be the logistics officer, but I don't have a sister and I don't have a logistics officer, so you're going to be it."
That's a good one.
Thanks a lot. So that was number one. But the conversation, I don't know, we probably 3 to 5 minutes. And then finally he sits back and he's kind of uncomfortable. And he goes, "I got to say something, Captain. In Marine Corps, I can't." He's like, "Okay, don't worry about it." But that was my first impression on Tripp, who was a great commanding officer. God rest his soul.
Fig?
How about you, Fig? You remember your check-in?
It must have been very unremarkable because I really have no recollection, and that's probably good.
Yeah.
Memories, but none of that. So it must have been a non-event.
Either that or you were blackout drunk, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, and that probably was part of the case.
Now, did any of you ever take a jet to an air show and for static display or to
Oh yeah,
do
Yep.
many air shows.
mini?
Yeah.
Many. Yes.
And now we're going to talk about you guys going. You trained in 203. I'm sure there's a white painted outline of what a ship looks like. And when, what are they called? Like the Bonnie Home, the America,
Oh, the Bonham Richard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the ones
Or
we went
such
to
ships.
were the LHAs.
LHA.
Yeah. So the Iwo Jima, the Wasp, the Kearsarge.
Okay. What you
Well,
guys?
the Wasp was a LHD 1.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was the first of its class.
Does that mean it
Kearsarge
doesn't
was
carry
Wasp class
the
carrier.
amphib?
Oh no,
Yes.
it does.
Okay.
It does. It's
It
just
does
a big.
carry
It's a
amphib,
newer
yeah.
model. It's a bigger, little, slightly larger assault ship.
The Marines Harrier operations, you guys slow down and are parallel to the ship, and then you drift to the right or whatever it might be called, and land on the deck. How
Right.
come they don't fly straight in like a typical approach?
Well, I could shine my ass and I have a 99% theory on it, but Fig says he knows the answer. So go for it, Fig, and I'll tell you what I thought if it was different.
I think I was kind of pulling that out of my ass. I think because there are airplanes parked or airplanes, helicopters parked on different spots, and usually the aft part of the ship is parking spots on an
There you
LHA.
go.
So if you flew straight in, you'd be coming over the top of airplanes or helicopters that were parked there. So, first of all, there's inherent risk there in having something go wrong, land short. Now you're destroying 2 or 3 airplanes in one shot. Or, we would operate just like the helicopters do. You would fly down once you had your rate of closure and everything under control. The LSO would go, okay, you're clear to cross and clear to land now. And you would come to a beam, the landing spot you were going to land at.
Right.
How'd I do, Repeat?
That's it in my opinion. And then plus your 8 lighted aid lights, the helicopter landing lights that are there are actually mounted on the tower of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to get up closer to that. And that helps you in low visibility maintain as you're looking out the window, what's up, what's down, where wings level is, that sort of thing. So,
and with the carrier's forward speed, you're matching that speed. So you're actually still moving forward.
Yeah, you could be doing, and if there's wind on top of that, if there's more wind over the deck. So if you got the carrier moving at 15 knots and you got a 15 knot wind, now you got 30 knots of wind that you're hovering in. So
we're nearing the tail end of the interview, but before we go to the third phase of the interview, what is the most memorable, scary flight that stands out above all?
So many?
I
don't know. I don't know. I can narrow it down to one.
Well, there's my first day in the Harrier, my second day in the Harrier, my third day in the Harrier.
This is just in the interest of time.
We call that a Tuesday, Dutch.
From you.
Yeah, that's like a Tuesday. Come on. Well, so I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the first one that came to my mind. It happened when we were in the RAG. Okay, I mean right out of the gate. I'm not going to say this gentleman's name. He was an instructor at the RAG, and he had 3 solos, and we had gone out to the range, and we had all dropped bombs, and he briefed, hey, if we all get our bombs off and everything's good, we'll go out in the we'll stay in the restricted area. We'll do a little tail chase. And we're like, cool, tail chase. That sounds great. Yeah. This was prior to us getting formal air combat maneuvering training in the Harrier. Okay.
Oh no.
It was early in the syllabus. So he's got 3 solos. I am like number 2 or number 3 in this 4-plane formation. And so we got 1,000 feet apart, and he starts maneuvering. And the idea is just to follow his flight path through the air. Tail chase. Try not to get any closer or any farther away from the guy in front of you. So we start out pretty benign, start making some maneuvers that are getting more and more aggressive. And then eventually he's got us going straight up.
Oh,
Straight up vertical. And at some point, I remember watching him and see black smoke everywhere. Well, what he did was a nozzle flop right back into us. Nozzle flop. He viffed in flight. We didn't know anything about this. Next thing I know, there's airplanes everywhere, going in every direction, but really close to each other. At one point, I was moving. I was on a constant bearing, decreasing range to one of these other Harriers, where I was moving the stick and kicking the rudder and doing anything I could possibly think of to do to stop closure, and it wouldn't stop. And at one point, I just accepted my fate. I'm going to hit this airplane. So the only thing I could think of to do was, well, I don't want to hit it with my head. So I rolled inverted, or I rolled so that I was going to hit this other airplane with my belly. So I rolled and kind of closed my eyes and tensed up, and I kind of waited for the impact, thinking this was probably it. Nothing happened. A few seconds later, I opened my eyes, looked around. There wasn't an airplane in sight. I rolled inverted, looked underneath, not an airplane in sight. And then eventually he came over the radio and goes, "Hey, where are you guys?" And nobody knew where anybody was. And he goes, "All right, well, just go back to Cherry Point and recover single shield." When we got to the debrief, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to explain what happened. He never talked about it. He was like, "Hey, well, you guys did pretty good. And you got good bomb scores. And all right, see you tomorrow." And left.
maybe he didn't want to admit and discuss it, huh?
We can only suppose that it was the case. But that was, and it was afterwards when the adrenaline wore off and my knees were shaking, and I'm like, good God, I thought this was it. I thought this was going to be it.
You were probably counting rivets on somebody else's jet.
That was the first of many of the situations where it really happened fast, so fast you couldn't think what was going to happen next. And
wow,
yeah, there you go.
It's a dangerous business, flying jets. I know this for a fact, just from what I've read and listened to. And Repete, I think you made a gesture before we went to Fig on the most memorable scary flight. Was there something that came to mind?
Like I said, that was a Tuesday.
Right.
The first one that came to mind for me was also in the RAG. A quick aerodynamics lesson on the Harrier. When you're in the hover, your aerodynamic flight controls do not work. Your alarms don't work. Your rudder doesn't work. Your elevator doesn't work. So you have to use what we call a reaction control system. And it's high pressure bleed air off of the engine that gets piped out to the wingtips, to the nose, and to the tail. The tail's in three directions. It's down and then left and right to give you yaw control. The wingtips are down until you go past half stick, and then it's up on the other side to give you roll control. And then the nose is just down to pull your nose up if you need to. So one of the other things, and that'll come into play here in just a second as to why that's important. Then the other thing we did was we had water injection. And if you were a little heavy, you could still do a vertical or a rolling vertical landing as long as you had a performance margin that you used water injection. And that allowed you to cool the engine and run it slightly faster to give you more thrust. Well, before you could land with water injection turned on, you had to do a water flow check in the downwind to make sure that the water system was not going to stagnate. And then when your engine needed it, the water would flow, you would get the cooling and the performance that you desire. So I come in for the break, I turn downwind. I remember it vividly. I was on runway 23. I want to say left and right at Cherry Point, or not really left and right in the real sense of things. There's a big center mat. Look it up on the internet if you want to see what I'm talking about. But I'm downwind for runway 23. I've got my nozzles in to about 50 degrees. So I'm slowing down, and I push the power all the way up to military so that I get water flow. And I got good water flow. And I don't know why I did this, but I pulled my throttle then back to idle instead of back to, I don't know, 80% or somewhere in there where it should have been.
Oh, no.
Oh,
yeah. So now I've got my nozzles in, and now I'm at 600 feet. I did the break, so I'm at 600 feet on downwind, but I've got my nozzles in, so that means my flaps are at 50, my nozzles are at 50 or so, and the airplane is slowing down like crazy because those flaps are like big barn doors, and we're slowing down. And as I come to idle, the airplane nose is now trying to point down because of the
Oh,
flaps
no,
and the
you're looking at
aerodynamics.
runway.
It is really, now I'm pointing at the ground and I'm probably 30 to 40 degrees nose down, and the airplane's starting to follow that path, not just going through the air, with the top of the airplane facing the wind. It's now starting down, and I've got the stick in my lap. I have pulled it back as far as it goes, and my nose is still falling, and I can't figure out what's going on. And I took my left hand, I pushed the throttle all the way back up so I would get thrust and water flow again. And I took it off the throttle and I reached down and I grabbed the ejection handle and went, I'm not going to live with this one much longer. I'm going to give this one back. And of course, as the engine spooled up and caught, my RCS reaction controls kicked in and the engine gave me enough thrust to still start pushing the nose up as well. And it was a self-inflicted stupidity wound that I almost gave that airplane back. It never occurred to me that going to idle was going to be so unusual looking. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know why I went to idle.
What recovery altitude were you at, do you think?
Yeah, it was probably 400 feet.
Oof.
So, yeah, I lost a couple hundred feet. It got my attention. I was a lot closer to the pine trees out there.
Yeah, I bet you were. Fig, how many hours do you have in the Harrier?
I didn't quite make 600
before you got out.
Before I left to go be an instructor down in Kingsville, Texas.
Yeah. Oh, did you have a student try and kill you there?
Oh yeah, multiple times. Yeah, that was like every day event.
It was like sport for them.
Try to hit other airplanes. Try to hit the ground coming off target. Try to stall the airplane in landing pattern.
What airframe were you an instructor on?
Both the TA4 and the T45 Goshawk.
Oh, nice. How many hours in the A4, TA4?
With the student time, the OA4 mic time, and the TA4 time as instructor, I broke 1,000.
Oh, wow. That's fun times.
Yeah.
The repeat, how many hours in the Harrier?
I want to say it's like 1,300, something like that.
Okay.
So I got my my gun squadron tour, and then going back as a RAG instructor, flew my ass off there. So
and then you guys left the Marine Corps. Did you go to reserves or anything, or did you just straight out end of service? And
yeah, Fig has a better story than I do. I was wanted to go. I actually got a job at Fort Ma and was all set to go fly the T-39, which is like their little Learjet. And I was going to try and do that and get into, either a Hornet unit or something like that in the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 weeks after I left active duty, my wife was killed by a drunk driver and my little boy was hurt. And so I tried to do the IRR, individual ready reserve, for a couple of years. And every time I got called and said, can you go here? Can you go there? It was a negative. And so finally I realized that I had 16 good years with my reserve time before, and that it was just not going to be a way that I could retire. So I walked away from it, and I don't even get let on the air station to go to the museum unless the civilians are let in.
That's crap.
That is crap.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I'm not going to say what I did, but yeah, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission when you got to do something.
Right.
Fig, what is this more interesting story?
Well, I don't know if it's more interesting, but
it's probably not. Go ahead.
It's not. I resigned my commission. I had a regular commission like Repeat did, and took a reserve commission, but I really didn't know what I was going to do. I moved my family back to the Kansas City area. There was really no close Marine Corps Reserve flying option for me. And I stumbled into an air guard job flying C-130s. That's the short of it. And I finished my military career as a air guard C-130 pilot.
Oh, was your husband proud of you?
Yes. The
nice
irony in this whole
Dutch, I love
that
you, brother.
Right in the face. I love that, Dutch. I used to make fun of C-130 guys.
I could picture you doing that.
Oh, I did. I have buddies that flew C-130s in the Marine Corps, and I hazed the shit out of them. And so, isn't it ironic that I ended up as I retired as a squadron commander of a C-130 squadron, but I originally didn't really enjoy flying the airplane very much, but it grew on me over time, and towards the end, I really did enjoy it.
It's a
But for instance,
fantastic airplane.
it is. It's amazing. And I went places in that airplane that I would never have gone had I stayed in the Marine Corps, which, by the way, is another story, not for this podcast, but I love the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is a good fit for me.
Mhm.
The woman I was married to at the time didn't think so. So that's what kind of got me out of the Marine Corps. But go to places you've never been. You probably never want to go ever. And I went to all of them. And ironically, Repete and I had horrible timing. We got to our Harrier squadron just as the Gulf War was kicking off, and we were the only Harrier squadron on the East Coast that didn't deploy. So we watched all of our buddies on CNN flying combat missions, and we were stuck there at home. Very frustrating. So flash forward, I'm an airline pilot. I'm flying C-130s in the reserves, basically, and I deployed to I had 5 combat deployments. Flying an airplane that I couldn't shoot anybody at, but was a target magnet, really.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is. That is quite ironic, isn't it? That
Yeah.
Well, I want to speak to the audience real quick. Is these gentlemen that I'm speaking with, I discovered on a podcast that they have, and we're going to go to Repete because he has a logo. Repete, if you could sound off and let's look at that logo.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
There you
it's
go.
so there I was, which
Yes.
is how all great aviation tales begin, right?
It's
And
true.
this actually, Fig and I had the same idea at separate times, and it for some reason it took the two of us to come together at a Harrier reunion to get this show together. But you can find us at sothereiwas.us, and then you can write to Fig at sothereiwas.us or Repete, spelled Repete, at sothereiwas.us. But I want to say 2009, I had been doing podcasting with a friend on a tech show for a couple of years as a occasional guest co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided, well, I want to do one on aviation. So I did my own show, and I did like 4 episodes, but it was really low energy. And here's what, So after 4 episodes, I said, well, screw it. Although I got to say, I got 2 great interviews out of it. One is with Jungle Jim Ross, who passed about 2 or 3 years ago now, former Blue Angel, did 4 seasons with the Blues.
Ooh.
Got called back. Yeah.
That's unheard of, right?
Yeah. Fantastic aviator. And then another one, and we've had him on our show as well, Bacchus, who's a retired Brigadier General, Connecticut Air Guard A-10 pilot and retired Boston Center supervisor. So go look up, look for Bacchus on this podcast. I have never put Jim's interview up on our show. We need to do that, Fig.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, it was really quite interesting. But it was low energy, so I did 4 episodes, and that was it. And then Fig and I ran into each other in the spring of 2022 at a Harrier reunion at Cherry Point. And he had a little recorder with him going, oh, we got to get these stories down. I want to get some stories. And
Yeah.
I'm going to do a podcast. I know a guy that does some artwork and all that. And we started talking about doing a podcast and got interrupted. So I called him about a week later after the thing and said, you want to do a show together? He's like, hell yeah, let's do it. We're in. So we came up with the name. And here we are at show 167, published this morning, which is the 17th of July that we're recording this. Mm-hmm. And we've gone every week with the exception of 2 weeks on each of the Christmases and 2 weeks last summer. They've all been original shows. And those are kind of best of shows in one way, shape, or form or the other. And oh my God, Fig, we've been so blessed, right? I mean, we've had World War II pilots. Well, one was a gunner and one was not a pilot during World War II, but he was 99. We recorded with him.
Yeah. Wow. We've had a MiG killer from Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, Vietnam era. Yeah. Astronauts, Blue Angels, Marine, Vietnam helicopter pilots, Army, Vietnam helicopter pilots.
I watched one. Your guest was Lawman.
Oh yeah. He's a former Harrier pilot, Blue Angel.
Yep.
Yep.
We met Lawman was our instructor in the RAG.
Oh.
And yeah, that's how we initially met him. And so we flew Harriers with him, and then he got A4s and was getting shit canned to a unit that was dying and going away. He was going to have to ride a desk for 3 years. So he applied to the Blues and got it. But what a gentleman and a natural storyteller. We did over 6 hours with Lawman.
Wow.
Just sitting there talking over the course of 2 days.
He's a hoot. He can tell a great story. He has.
I'll say the guy, what little I've seen in his history, that guy don't seem to age.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He just retired. He's 65, just retired from the airlines. And he's still back there working, teaching. And,
Oh, good for him.
just a constant, I don't know how he has so much energy, because
Some
he
do.
doesn't drink. And
No, there's his mistake right there.
right. He was always the designated driver, which if you listen to all his shows, that brings its own hilarity.
There's really nothing scripted. We like to hear people's stories, and a lot of guys, they're very humble. They go, I don't have any stories. Well, I'm like, let me be the judge of that.
Yes.
You start asking them questions, and the next thing you know, you've been talking for 2.5 hours.
So I encourage my audience to get out there. YouTube, you have a YouTube channel. You're on a lot of the major podcast channels. Is it just you two, or do you have people that assist you with your production?
Yes,
We do.
to both. For the most part, it's Fig and me, but we also have another naval aviator, Coast Guard rotorhead, call sign Sticks, who has helped us significantly. He's gotten us guests. He's been a guest host. He's does a lot of production work in the background. Although lately that's been an issue. We switched recording platforms, and we're not able to put up pictures as well when we're recording. But we also realized that we have several thousand listeners that don't come on and watch the videos. So we know we may have 40 or 50 people watching the video. So putting the pictures up isn't a priority, but we've got to figure a better way to get to that. But yeah, we got Fig and Bago, who was one of our listeners who started helping out with our Facebook page, SetAirWolf.us/Facebook, and he manages that group for us, which has been a huge help. And last name Cole, hence we gave him Bago. He was an avionics tech in the Harrier back in the day, and he now works at the Naval Aviation Rework Facility. What is it? NADEP, Naval Aviation Depot.
Where's that at?
At Cherry Point in the F-35 program. So he's working on avionics in the F-35.
Oh, he's only going to get busier.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But and then in our YouTube channel is youtube.com/so there I was AV-8B Alpha Victor 8 Bravo. There was AV-8B.
Well, you definitely have a good thing going on. And Fig, there was a special guest on the screen with you. Who was that?
Oh, that's Jude. He's been at my feet for the last 15 minutes, just looking at me.
Oh, he's behaving.
So I thought, well, he wanted me to pick him up. Dachshunds. We have dachshunds at the Newton house. And you can't have a bad day when there's a dachshund around. You kick it a couple times and they give you that look.
Well, even Hitler's dog loved him, right?
Yeah.
Right. Hey, man, why
the
the
most
long
stubborn
face?
dog on the planet. The dachshund. Love them.
Yeah, my wife has Shih Tzus, and that's Chinese for cock blocker.
That's pretty spot on. I love it.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's bad.
Well, you guys, I'm going to give you back your day, and I've held you long enough, I think. But I'm so happy that I had you guys on here. You guys are totally cool. I'll have a drink on you this evening.
Please do. Thank you for the invite. I've enjoyed telling stories with you.
Well, good.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you had fun. And that's what it's all about. And you guys' humor meshes well with my humor and vice versa. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off.